Ted Blair has a problem. He just can't find employees to staff his Wyoming hotels, and he's not alone. Blair and other resort property owners are searching high and low for people to make beds, bus tables, and wash dishes this summer. Blair says, quote, "We will keep running. We have to, even if the management has to make beds." One company that wants to help management avoid that fate is RSI Seasonal Staffing of Vermont. And where do they recruit people to fill these jobs? Places like Jamaica, South Africa, Bulgaria, and Mexico. The Human Resources Director for the Stanley Hotel in Colorado says, quote, "I cannot tell you the time that I spend recruiting. We cannot get back our H-2B workers who went home. The only option that we are left with is everyone scrounging around to find anyone in the U.S. who is on an extended H-2B visa." I don't know about you, but I'm sensing a theme here. Did you happen to notice that in all these sob stories, there's one option that seems to be entirely off the table? Hiring an American. Jake did some research on Ted Blair and his properties. The website for Blair's guest ranch has the standard page to list employment opportunities. It's blank. And a search of local newspapers found no help wanted ads for his other properties. And what's up with that bit about scrounging for H-2B visa holders? A bill on Capitol Hill last year would have allowed H-2B visa holders to go home, then return to the U.S. on a new visa without being counted toward the annual cap. The bill, which would have upped legal immigration numbers, was blocked by none other than the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, forcing employers like Blair and the Stanley Hotel to choose between hiring Americans or illegal aliens. Or in the words of Denver immigration attorney Joel Anderson, it obviously opens the door for workers who aren't authorized to work in the U.S. No kidding. The employers make no bones about the fact that what they want is low-wage workers from anywhere in the world but here. They whine that they can't find Americans to do the work, and even if they could, they wouldn't be able to turn a profit. Unfortunately for them, we are in a unique position to blow their bullshit story right out of the water. We used to do it. That's right. A few years back, Jake and I worked our way around out west, cooking, cleaning, waiting tables, making beds, and washing dishes at resorts in Wyoming, Colorado, and Arizona. And guess what? Even after hiring American citizens, every one of those places is still in business. The bottom line is this. Greedy, unethical business owners are desperate for cheap, pliable labor, and they're willing to bend over backwards to get it. Race-pandering politicians are drooling for an amnesty to stack the voting deck with their people. Fortunately, we the people live in a democratic republic, if we can keep it. We think that our great country is well worth working, struggling, and fighting to keep. And like those we thankfully remember on this Memorial Day who gave their lives doing just that, fighting to keep America is exactly what we plan to do. Let's roll. The victim, a 13-year-old Fort Mojave, Arizona girl. The accused, Rodrigo Ramirez Cadena, 32, an illegal alien. The charges, felony molestation of a child and child abuse. The story. All we know at this point is that Cadena was arrested for felony sexual abuse of a 13-year-old girl. Why do we know so little? Because at this point, the story is no more than a blurb on the Mojave Daily News Community Watch page. But we think the sexual assault of a 13-year-old girl by an illegal alien rates more than half a paragraph, hidden in the back of a tiny paper located in BFE. Our opponents, be they greedy business owners, pandering politicians, or open borders freaks, often tell us that illegal aliens simply don't commit these kind of crimes. After all, they're just hard workers, right? But how would you know better when facts are as well hidden as stories like this one? You watch Blogs4Borders, that's how. Because if our government had been doing its job, getting and keeping illegal aliens out of our country, Cadena wouldn't have been here to sexually assault a 13-year-old girl. And that makes this crime what? 100% preventable. The victim, Teresa Tacoma, 55, of Green Acres, Florida. The accused, Adonai Gonzalez, 22, an illegal alien from Mexico. The charges: 2 counts of hit and run, failure to remain at a crash involving injury, failure to remain at a crash involving death, driving without a license, and resisting arrest. The story: Gonzalez was driving a Ford Explorer on May 21st when he went on what local papers called a rampage. He slammed into a Harley-Davidson, dragging it and its rider, Teresa Tacoma, who was killed, for 150 yards. Gonzalez hit 3 other vehicles, injuring another driver, then fled the scene, disappearing into a nearby neighborhood. Police quickly located and arrested Gonzalez, who later confessed that he had consumed 2 beers and 3 shots of tequila just an hour before getting behind the wheel. Crying, he said, quote, "I'm not a bad person. I know I shouldn't drink, but I drink, you know." Here's what we know. If our government had been doing its job, getting and keeping illegal aliens out of our country, Gonzalez wouldn't have been here to get drunk and get behind the wheel of a car, and Teresa Tacoma would be here to get on with her life. And that makes this crime what? 100% preventable. In our first piece, we talked about employers who will seemingly do anything to hire anyone as long as they're not an American citizen. Do you remember the ICE raid on the Swift meatpacking plant in Greeley, Colorado, back at the end of 2006? It was a big one, and it got a lot of press, including the fact that after the raid, Americans were lining up to fill the jobs, you know, those jobs Americans won't do, left vacant by the deported Mexican illegals. Well, it's a year and a half later, and while Swift may be hiring legally now, they still don't seem to be very interested in hiring Americans. The latest people to fill their non-American hiring needs? Somalis. An organization called Lutheran Family Services provides resettlement services and has been bringing Somalis to Greeley specifically to work at the plant. Caseworker Ibrahim Mohammed says, "Every day 20 or 30 people are coming to get started at Swift." Now, our beef is not with Somalis or any legal immigrants getting jobs. It's with companies who so clearly, adamantly, and desperately don't want to hire Americans. Companies for whom employing a U.S. citizen is a last resort instead of a source of pride. Let's apply the simple but effective shoe other foot litmus test, shall we? If companies in Somalia, Mexico, or any other country did everything in their power to hire Americans over their own citizens, would that be acceptable, let alone laudable? Of course not. So why in the world is it okay in America? The answer, of course, is that it's not okay. It's not even close to being okay. Thanks for clicking in to this week's episode of the Blogs4Borders video blog burst. Don't forget that helping us to keep doing this thing we do is only a click away. Go to freedomfolks.com and look for the Support Blogs4Borders button. And until next week, be vigilant, be vocal, and be unrelenting. We've got a country to save.